Hi, my name is Adam Whitmer. I'm the founder and host here at ComplianceCohort.com. This compliance clip is going to talk about Reg E Affirmative Consent. So I just finished recording our fall 2020 quarterly compliance update. And in doing that, one of the things we talked about in this quarter, and there was a lot of things we talked about, but one of the things we talked about was the TD Bank consent order. And it related to overdraft protection. And so this is a slide from the quarterly compliance update, but I thought I would share it with all of you because this is something I really haven't seen brought up before, but is determined to be a problem by the CFPB. So on August 20th of 2020, the CFPB announced this settlement with TD Bank regarding its marketing and sale of its optional overdraft service, which TD Bank referred to as debit card advance. So debit card advance, or DCA, was TD Bank's overdraft privilege product that is covered under Regulation E. It's their overdraft protection program covered under Regulation E. So it's for one-time debit card transactions and ATM transactions. So ATM and one-time debit card transactions that are covered under Regulation E. That's what we're talking about. Now, according to the release, the CFPB said that TD Bank had several problems, and some of these here are related to affirmative consent, and that's what I want to focus on in this video. There's actually a few more problems that we talked about in our quarterly compliance update, but this is just affirmative consent. So what was happening was TD Bank charged consumers overdraft fees for ATM and one-time debit card transactions without obtaining their affirmative consent in violation of Regulation E and the Electronic Funds Transfers Act. So you may say, why didn't they get the affirmative consent? Well, they thought they were. And what's interesting about this is it comes down to a process. TD Bank thought they were complying because they had documentation, they had disclosures that were proper, they had checkboxes that were proper. But the way they delivered it caused a problem for TD Bank and they ended up with this consent order and these major issues. What was happening specifically was TD Bank was opening new accounts both in branches and out of branches at events. So in branches, what was happening was TD Bank was getting an oral consent from a customer before providing the required notice for the overdraft program. And what was happening was this resulted in customers technically not getting a choice and not providing their affirmative consent. So basically, the new accounts representative, say it was me, would say, hey, Mr. Joe Blow, because I'm sure that's your name. It's not. I don't know. I can't make this any more active. It's a video, but I can't make it any more active. But hey, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, is what I would say. We have this overdraft program that pays for ATM and one-time debit card transactions. And it might be beneficial because if you get stuck at a grocery store and you're trying to pay and you don't have enough funds, you could avoid the embarrassment of having your card declined, having all your frozen food melt while you run home to try to find cash, or not being able to put groceries on the plate. This would help cover those protections. At least that's what the big banks sell it as a selling point. And so the customers say, okay, I'll take that, because the salesperson is probably pretty salesy. Says, oh, okay, fine, I'll do it. And the salesperson will say, great. And what they'll do is they'll literally type it in, and then they will have a form print out, or a pre-printed form they'll pull out that's the one that's checked with the box yes. And they will give that to the customer to sign. Now, that's a problem for a couple of reasons, because first and foremost, what you have to do is give the customer the written notice first. Then they make their affirmative consent. And when the box is pre-checked, as what the CFPB is saying here that TD Bank did, that becomes a problem. So this pre-checked box actually becomes a problem, especially when they didn't get their written disclosure first. It's pre-checked. Now they don't have a chance to make their affirmative consent because it's pre-checked. Now, you may argue this, but this is what the CFPB has said, is pre-check boxes are not working because affirmative consent, they have to first get the written notice and then be able to check the box. Now, the oral notice doesn't count. It has to be a written notice, has to be a written affirmative consent. That's what the CFPB is saying. Now, what TD Bank did at events, for their offsite account opening, they had their account opening form. So not a separate DCA form, but the actual account opening form was an authorization form that had a box to check to enroll in DCA, but the required written disclosure was a separate document that the employee had to remember to bring with them to the event. And the CFPB found that many times the employees actually forgot to bring it and didn't provide it to the customer, but still enrolled them in the DCA program, probably because the salespeople got bonuses or some sort of incentive for upselling this overdraft service. So that was problematic. So we may say this is a brand new issue, right? This is something we haven't heard before. I've not seen an enforcement action on this specifically in the past, but in fact, this is an old rule. TD Bank should have known this if they had read the commentary to Regulation E. Because the commentary specifically says this. It says, an institution does not obtain a consumer's affirmative consent by including pre-printed language about the overdraft service in an account disclosure provided with a signature card or contract that the consumer must sign to open the account and that acknowledges the consumer's acceptance of the account. Well, that doesn't really answer it, but check this out. It says, nor does an institution obtain a consumer's affirmative consent by providing a signature card that contains a pre-selected checkbox indicating that the consumer is requesting the service. So take a look at your practices in your organization and see if your overdraft process has pre-printed boxes. What the CFPB is saying and what the actual commentary says is you need to give the customer the form that is not pre-printed. And what was happening on the other slide that I fast forwarded through, when the TD Bank employees were going to events, they were writing it in for the customer, helping them fill it out. They were checking the box for the customer based on what they selected. The CFPB said that that was not enough, that was a problem. When the employees were filling it out, that was not enough to be affirmative consent. The customers had to check the box themselves. Bang, right? Pow. So take a look in your organization, see if that's a problem, see if it's something you need to deal with. Hopefully that is beneficial. That's all I have for this compliance clip. Now, if you're interested, we do have our fall 2020 quarterly compliance update that deals with that tiny little piece and a whole lot more. There was a lot. We deal with that in our fall 2020 quarterly compliance update. It's available in our store, compliancecohort.com/store, and it covers all the regulatory changes, all the activity, things like that occurred during the third quarter of 2020. So July, August, and September of 2020. Check it out. It's available in our store. We release a product like that every quarter. If you're new to the compliance cohort, don't worry, you don't have to pay for stuff. We have free membership available to you. These training videos just like this are available for free to our members. You can sign in and have all the videos available in one spot. You have access to videos. You can search. There's different topics. So check it out. There's a free membership available. If you're an existing member, thank you so much for sticking around to the end. We appreciate it greatly, and I'll give you a little hint that was in my quarterly compliance update, for the fall 2020 quarterly compliance update program. I did a terrible Matthew McConaughey impersonation that I'm not going to do here. So if you're interested in seeing that impersonation and the failed attempt, check it out. But thank you for sticking around to the end. We appreciate you. You're the reason why we do what we do, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks so much.